called him unforgiving, heartless, too quick to walk away. But what they never understood is that when a Sigma male cuts someone off, it isn't out of anger, it's out of clarity. He doesn't slam doors impulsively. He doesn't disappear to make a point. He withdraws because he's already seen everything he needed to see. One lie, one betrayal, one moment of disrespect. That's all it takes. Not because he's weak, but because his intuition is too sharp to ignore the truth twice. People confuse his silence for indifference, but it's the opposite. A Sigma male detaches only after he's given enough chances to understand someone's character. He notices the patterns others excuse. He feels the shift long before it becomes visible. And once he recognizes that someone can't meet him with honesty, loyalty, or consistency, the connection dies instantly. No arguments, no warnings, just a clean, quiet exit. That's the Sigma's final decision, and it's permanent. This is where most people fail to understand him. They think time will soften him. They think apologies can pull him back. They think he will return because he's too calm to stay angry. But a Sigma doesn't walk away because he's emotional. He walks away because he's done. When he detaches, he doesn't leave the relationship. He leaves the version of himself that tolerated nonsense. And there is no second chance, because a Sigma male never reopens a door he closed with intention. If you've ever cut someone off not out of rage, but out of self-respect, this video will remind you that your boundaries are not up for negotiation. You don't walk away to punish, you walk away to protect your peace. Before we begin, make sure you subscribe to Ultrawise. Help us hit 1,000 subscribers this month and join the movement of men who choose silence over chaos and self-respect over repetition. Now tell me in the comments, have you ever walked away from someone and never looked back? A Sigma male cuts you off the moment he recognizes your true pattern. It doesn't happen after one argument or a single mistake. It happens the moment he sees a consistent behavior that exposes your real character. The Sigma male doesn't react to what you say. He studies what you repeat. He notices the excuses that always sound the same, the apologies that come too easily, the promises that never align with action. While others get distracted by words, he focuses on patterns. And he gives space, observes quietly, and lets people show him who they are. And when the truth finally becomes clear, he doesn't question it, he acts on it. This is where people misunderstand him. They think he leaves suddenly, but in reality, he's been watching for a while, testing your consistency, your honesty, your energy. Every small red flag you thought went unnoticed was already stored in his mind. He doesn't confront because he doesn't need to. The evidence is in your repetition. The moment your pattern reveals itself, the decision is already made. No argument, no warning, no closure, just silence. The Sigma doesn't hold grudges. He holds data. Once your actions prove your intention, his emotions shut off like a switch. You won't see anger or bitterness, only indifference. He doesn't explain his choice or try to fix what's already broken, because to him, once trust fractures, it can never return to its original form. He doesn't chase, he doesn't investigate, and he doesn't give second chances to someone who already showed their truth. By the time you realize he's gone, he's already miles ahead, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. That's what makes his detachment so cold and final. He doesn't leave to hurt you. He leaves to protect his peace. And when a Sigma male cuts you off, it's not punishment, it's confirmation. He's seen enough to know exactly who you are. People often try to come back once they feel his absence, but it never works. Because for a Sigma, once your pattern is clear, your access is gone. He doesn't reopen doors to the same chaos he escaped from. His silence isn't emotional, it's decisive. And that decision is forever. He disconnects silently, no warnings, no explanations. When the Sigma male walks away, there's no announcement, no argument, no dramatic farewell. One day he's there, calm, steady, observant. The next, he's gone. Not because something suddenly changed, but because he did. He doesn't believe in wasting words on people who ignored his silence when it was still peaceful. The decision to disconnect doesn't come from impulse, it comes from accumulation. Too many moments of disrespect, too many small disappointments, too many reminders that his presence was being taken for granted. And when the weight of those moments becomes undeniable, he disappears quietly, leaving only the echo of his absence behind. The Sigma male doesn't warn anyone because he knows people don't listen to words. They listen to loss. He understands that explaining himself only gives manipulators space to twist the narrative, so he stops talking, stops justifying, stops giving energy to conversations that will only circle back to the same empty promises. Silence becomes his closure. Distance becomes his explanation. His calm withdrawal says everything words never could. What confuses people the most is how effortless it seems. There's no revenge, no outburst, no need to make a scene. He simply detaches, leaving confusion in his wake. People check their messages, replay conversations, try to figure out what went wrong, but they'll never get a warning because he already gave it in subtle ways they ignored. His tone got colder, his responses shorter, his presence quieter. Those were the signs, they just didn't pay attention. By the time they notice the distance, it's irreversible. He's already emotionally gone, even if his body hasn't left yet. That's what makes his disconnection so final. It's not about leaving the room. It's about leaving the connection long before anyone realizes it. His silence isn't cruel, it's strategic. It's self-protection disguised as indifference. The Sigma male doesn't owe explanations to those who took advantage of his understanding. He doesn't need closure from people who created the chaos. His silence is the closure, because in his world, peace speaks louder than confrontation. And when he disconnects, it's not to hurt you, it's to heal himself. Once that choice is made, there's nothing left to say. Once his respect is broken, the connection is finished. For a Sigma male, respect is the foundation of every connection. Not affection, not history, not promises. Once that foundation cracks, there's no rebuilding it. He can forgive a mistake, but he never overlooks disrespect. Because to him, respect isn't about words or gestures. It's about consistency. It's how you treat him when no one's watching, how you speak when he's not around, how you value his time, his silence, and his effort. The moment he senses that respect is gone, through manipulation, lies, or disregard, something inside him shuts down completely. And once that switch flips, there's no turning it back on. The Sigma male doesn't make a scene or demand an apology. He doesn't argue to be understood or beg for decency. He just observes, confirms, and exits. Respect to him is sacred, and once you break it, you lose access to him entirely. People often mistake his calm reaction for forgiveness, not realizing that the quiet is the ending. He doesn't shout or curse, he simply detaches, because once respect dies, so does the connection. What makes this more powerful is that the Sigma's detachment is permanent. He doesn't play the back and forth game of leaving and returning. When he closes a chapter, it's sealed. You can apologize, explain, or promise to change. It won't matter. The Sigma doesn't measure loyalty through words. He measures it through integrity. And once you've proven that you don't value his, he moves on without resentment, but with absolute certainty. This is why people often feel the loss of a Sigma male long after he's gone. His respect is rare, earned, not given. When he offers it, it's a sign that he sees something genuine in you. But once you betray that trust, you'll realize too late that you weren't just losing his attention, you were losing his respect, and with it, every chance of reconnection. For the Sigma, respect is everything. It's the invisible thread that keeps relationships alive. Break it once, and there's nothing left to repair. He won't hate you. He won't talk about you. He'll simply remove you from his energy, his thoughts, and his world. Because to a Sigma male, respect isn't something you earn twice. He trusts actions over words, and betrayal ends everything. A Sigma male doesn't get impressed by promises or empty talk. He's heard it all before. Words mean nothing to him if the actions don't align. He listens, but he watches more. He remembers what people do when no one's watching, how they behave when there's nothing to gain, and how quickly they switch sides when pressure appears. To him, integrity isn't something you claim. It's something you prove through consistency, and once he sees a gap between what you say and what you do, he knows exactly who you are. That's why betrayal hits him harder than most. Not because he didn't expect it, but because he hoped you were different. The Sigma male doesn't hand out trust easily. When he gives it, it's because your behavior earned it over time. He observes patterns, tests intentions, and gives space for people to reveal themselves. But once betrayal enters the picture, even in the smallest form, his entire perspective shifts. A lie, a broken promise, or a hidden agenda is all it takes for the connection to die instantly. He won't explode. He won't confront you with evidence. He'll just disappear. Because betrayal, to him, is the final truth, the one that requires no explanation. What people don't understand is that the Sigma doesn't forgive betrayal, not out of pride, but out of principle. He believes that someone who betrays once has already shown what they're capable of. Trust, once broken, can never return to its original shape. So instead of repairing what's damaged, he replaces the connection with silence. He doesn't want revenge, he wants peace. And peace can't exist where deception lives. The moment betrayal happens, his energy withdraws completely. You'll feel it before you even notice his absence. His texts slow down, his tone changes, his attention fades. That's the prelude to his exit. Calm, decisive, final. And once he's gone, he never looks back. Because for a Sigma male, loyalty isn't negotiable. You either mean what you say, or you don't. There's no middle ground. And when you betray his trust, you don't just lose his presence. You lose access to a man who would have stood by you unconditionally. To him, betrayal doesn't require anger. It requires distance. And that distance is forever. When he emotionally detaches, you're already out of his life. A Sigma male doesn't leave when he walks out the door. He leaves long before that. The real disconnection happens silently deep inside him when his emotions begin to shut down one by one. He may still answer your calls, still show up, still speak to you, but the bond is gone. You can feel it in his tone, in his eyes, in the absence of warmth that once made you feel safe. That's the moment most people miss. They think he's distant, moody, or distracted, but the truth is, he's already emotionally gone. And when a Sigma's emotions go cold, the relationship is already over. For him, detachment isn't a reaction. It's a decision. He doesn't stop caring suddenly. He stops after realizing that caring doesn't change anything. After enough disappointment, he stops trying to explain, stops hoping for change, and starts observing from a distance. His silence becomes heavier. His response is shorter. He's not angry, he's done. And that quiet withdrawal is the last stage before he vanishes completely. What people fail to understand is that when a Sigma detaches, it's not temporary. He doesn't take emotional breaks or go through phases of uncertainty. Once he disconnects, it's permanent. He has analyzed the situation, accepted the truth, and mentally closed the chapter. You might still be in contact, but you're no longer in his heart. He no longer sees you as part of his future, only as a lesson from his past. This level of detachment is what makes him so misunderstood. To outsiders, it looks cold. To him, it's survival. He's learned that emotional investment in the wrong people only leads to exhaustion. So instead of fighting battles that drain his peace, he withdraws quietly and rebuilds himself in silence. He doesn't beg for closure because he already found it in clarity. When a Sigma male emotionally detaches, it's the cleanest goodbye you'll ever experience, and the most painful. Because he won't slam doors or make you feel guilty, he'll simply stop showing up. And that absence will say more than any confrontation ever could. By the time you realize what's missing, he's already moved on. Not in anger, but in peace. His absence exposes what your behavior really was. When a Sigma male walks away, the silence he leaves behind becomes a mirror. And in that mirror, people finally see themselves for who they were. His presence once absorbed the tension, balanced the chaos, and made dysfunction look normal. He listened, understood, forgave, and carried more than anyone realized. But when he's gone, the illusion collapses. Suddenly, the calm that used to hold everything together disappears, and what's left is the raw truth of how people actually behaved. His absence doesn't just leave a void, it reveals it. While he was there, his energy softened your flaws. His patience made your sharp edges tolerable. His understanding made your inconsistency seem forgivable. You thought the relationship worked because of mutual effort, but it only worked because he was constantly maintaining peace. The moment he withdraws, that hidden imbalance becomes impossible to ignore. Conversations that once felt stable start falling apart. The tension rises. The comfort fades. Because without the Sigma's grounded presence, people are forced to face the chaos they created. That's the power of his absence. It removes the emotional buffer. The truth becomes loud when his calm is gone. People begin realizing how much they took for granted. His silence that prevented arguments, his insight that solved problems, his restraint that kept situations from exploding. And the same individuals who once accused him of being too distant now crave the steadiness they mistook for coldness. But by then, it's too late. The Sigma male doesn't come back to repair what his absence exposed. He doesn't need revenge or validation. Watching people unravel under their own behavior is enough proof that walking away was the right decision. He knows that time and distance are the ultimate teachers. And his silence teaches the loudest lesson of all. When the Sigma leaves, everything he once tolerated becomes visible. The manipulation, the disrespect, the imbalance. All of it surfaces in his absence, and while others may call it cold, he calls it clarity. Because his withdrawal isn't meant to punish, it's meant to reveal. His presence once protected people from the truth, but his absence forces them to finally face it. And that's when they understand. Losing him wasn't the consequence, it was the reflection. He never returns to someone he outgrew. When a Sigma male walks away, it's not out of impulse. It's because he's reached a level of clarity that makes going back impossible. By the time he leaves, he's already replayed every memory, analyzed every conversation, and understood every reason why the connection failed. He doesn't cut people off to make them miss him. He does it because he's evolved past the version of himself that once tolerated them, and once growth happens, returning would mean regression, something a Sigma refuses to do. He doesn't hold hate. He doesn't carry resentment. In fact, he often remembers the good moments with quiet gratitude. But he also knows that those moments no longer define who he is. The person he was when he met you isn't the same person he became by the time he left. He's sharper, calmer, more disciplined. He's learned what drains him, what strengthens him, and what peace really feels like. And once a Sigma experiences genuine peace, he'll never trade it for old comfort. People often mistake his silence for unresolved emotion. They assume that time will soften him, that nostalgia will make him return. But they misunderstand his nature. A Sigma doesn't go back to test the same fire that already burned him. He doesn't revisit lessons he's already mastered. Once he detaches, it's complete. He doesn't reopen doors, not because he's bitter, but because he respects his evolution too much to fit into an old chapter. What makes this so powerful is that his detachment isn't about forgetting, it's about understanding. He sees everything clearly now, the lies, the manipulation, the imbalance, all of it. He's not angry anymore, just uninterested. That's what confuses people the most. They expect emotion, but what they get is indifference. Because for a Sigma, the final stage of closure isn't forgiveness, it's disinterest. When he outgrows someone, he doesn't need revenge or closure. He simply disappears from their reality, upgrading his life in silence. And when they try to reach out, hoping for another chance, they find nothing but distance. Not hatred, just peace. That's the mark of a Sigma's growth. He doesn't circle back to the past. He replaces it with progress. Once he's leveled up, there's no going back. Because to him, returning means lowering his standards, and that's something he'll never do again. When he walks away, he levels up and never looks back. When a Sigma male decides to walk away, it's not an ending. It's an upgrade. He doesn't leave to escape someone, he leaves to evolve beyond them. Every experience, every betrayal, every disappointment becomes fuel. While most people waste time explaining their pain, the Sigma turns it into progress. He doesn't post about it, he doesn't announce his comeback, he simply disappears into silence. And when he reappears, he's unrecognizable, stronger, sharper, more disciplined. The same situation that broke others only built him into a version no one saw coming. Walking away isn't weakness for him, it's refinement. The Sigma understands that you can't rise while staying in environments that drain your energy. So when he detaches, he redirects that energy toward himself, his goals, his growth, his mission. He invests the emotion he once wasted on the wrong people into mastering his craft, improving his mind, and rebuilding his life in silence. While others talk about moving on, he lives it. His evolution doesn't need witnesses. It speaks for itself. What people don't expect is how quickly his absence turns into presence, how the man they underestimated becomes the one they can't stop thinking about. The same people who once took him for granted start noticing his glow-up, his focus, his new level of calm control. They realize too late that while they were busy playing games, he was building himself. The Sigma never looks back, because there's nothing left behind that matches where he's going. He doesn't chase revenge or validation. His success becomes both. Every improvement is a quiet statement. I don't need to prove my worth. I became it. That's why his energy changes so drastically after he leaves. He's not bitter. He's clear. He's not cold. He's evolved. His new peace, his new standards, and his new environment reflect the man he always was, just without the noise. When a Sigma walks away, it's not retreat, it's transformation. He turns endings into momentum and silence into strategy. And once he levels up, the past becomes irrelevant. Because he understands a truth most never grasp. The best revenge isn't payback, it's progress. And once he reaches that level, he never looks back, not out of pride, but out of purpose. When a Sigma male cuts someone off, it's never about hate, it's about growth. He doesn't leave to prove a point, he leaves because the chapter no longer matches his mindset. What used to drain him now teaches him. What used to hurt him now sharpens him. Every loss becomes strategy. Every silence becomes strength, and the people who once underestimated him eventually learn that he doesn't return to what he's already outgrown. Because his peace isn't negotiable, and his evolution doesn't wait for anyone. If this message hit home, you already understand what it means to move in silence and rise without warning. So before you go, subscribe to UltraWise. Join the brotherhood of Sigma minds who don't chase attention, they build it through discipline. And drop a comment below. No second chance. So I'll know you're one of the few who understand what real detachment and self-respect look like.